The Eternal Fleet was supreme. Led by Valkorion and eventually his children Arkan and Vaylin, in 3636 BBY, the Eternal Empire and its devastating armada of droid-controlled starships had an iron grip on the galaxy. The Republic, the Sith Empire, the two great powers now chained to a leash and unable to rise up, their technology utterly inferior. But hidden away and lying in the swamps of the planet Zakul, the homeworld of the Eternal Empire, was the very thing that would bring about its destruction: the Gravestone. Thousands of years prior to the Great Galactic War and the war with the Eternal Empire, a species of intellectually genius beings dominated the unknown regions, building technological marvels that would surpass all known creations in the galaxy. The pinnacle of this creation was Iokath, their homeworld, an entire habitable Dyson sphere built around a star, and as their power base grew, so did their technological terrors, building some of the most dangerous weapons in the known galaxy, such as the Eternal Fleet, and testing them on multiple planets, killing trillions in the process. But they knew with a creation such as the Eternal Fleet, there needed to be a countermeasure to stop it. So, the scientists of Iokath built a huge starship known as the Gravestone, and created it to intrinsically connect with another of their superweapons known as Zildrog. The Gravestone was fitted with a unique, never-before-seen omni-cannon that was able to fire upon a single target and have the damage spread through the formation of the Eternal Fleet, destroying hundreds of the droid-controlled warships at a single time. Eventually, though, amongst the civilization built around creating devastation, disagreements were had, and eventually civil war broke out on Iokath. The Eternal Fleet as well as other superweapons were turned on each other, and Iokath became a bloodbath. However, in a last-ditch attempt to save their species from their own creations, the scientists of Iokath drove the Eternal Fleet, along with the Gemini droids controlling it and the Gravestone, into the far reaches of unknown space, and locked their navigation cores so the droids could never return the weapons to the metalloid planet. The Eternal Fleet and the Gravestone floated in the darkness of space and dropped from the history books until several hundreds of years prior to Emperor Vitiate's Great War with the Republic. The Eternal Fleet during this time was discovered by an unknown source and was reawakened, and systematically began eradicating all life within wild space. The original programming of the Gemini droids under the rule of the Iokathian scientists was to destroy organic life, and so they continued on with their old commands. However, the Gravestone too was eventually found, and as the Eternal Fleet made its next target Zakul, the Gravestone intercepted it before the planet was destroyed, engaging in a vicious battle in orbit of the Swamp World. The Gravestone came out victorious in this battle, completely deactivating the Eternal Fleet, which was once again left lying dormant in the emptiness of deep space. The Gravestone itself, a powerful technological marvel in its own right, was considered just as much of a threat, and so the unknown beings who waged this battle against the Eternal Fleet scuttled the Iokathian machine in the deep swamps of Zakul, to be forgotten and lost. As the centuries passed, the Gravestone was consumed by the swamps and the overgrowth of Zakul, becoming almost undiscoverable to the people of the planet. Zakul itself was then overtaken by the Sith Emperor, now in the guise of a man known as Valkorion, and the planet became a hub of technology and prosperity, with the swamps below becoming the lowest levels as the cityscapes gradually grew above. The Eternal Emperor Valkorion had discovered the Eternal Fleet floating in space and used it to completely dominate the unknown regions outside of the gaze of the Republic or even his own Sith Empire. Zakul as such became the capital of the newly christened Eternal Empire, but unknown to the Emperor was that in the belly of the very planet he had established his rule was the one single piece of technology that could challenge him. Valkorion himself was eventually murdered by his own son, who then led a conquest of the galaxy using the Eternal Fleet. But in 3631 BBY, the hero of Tython, a legendary hero of the Republic and the Jedi Order, who was imprisoned on Zakul, escaped the clutches of the Eternal Empire and dived into the endless swamp to hide from their pursuers. And as they tried to find their way out of the swamp, they stumbled upon the ancient ship that was known only in legend. The Gravestone had waited for millennia for this moment, and to the hero of Tython's surprise, they could now have a chance to truly stand against the Eternal Fleet, and they begun to fire up its systems and fix what they could. However, the Eternal Empire found them, and they had to make do with the Gravestone in its current state, and as it emerged from the swamps and rose to orbit to escape the planet, it was engaged by the Eternal Fleet. It was now time for the Gravestone's Omnicannon to be put to test, and it blew a hole in the Eternal Fleet's formation to push through and escape. The Gravestone stayed in the hands of the Hero of Tython and their allies, and was publicly used in a battle on the planet Odessen to fend off a large portion of the Eternal Fleet, and after seeing a group stand up to the Eternal Empire, and with the technological marvel of the Gravestone in their hands, members of both the Republic and the Sith Empire banded together to create a group to challenge them, forming the Alliance. The Alliance, with the backing of both factions, took the war to the Eternal Empire, and the Gravestone was integral in swinging the tide of battle in their favour, and eventually it was used to break the Eternal Fleet's defence of Zakul itself, breaking through the barrier to storm the throne, and ultimately seize control of the Eternal Empire from former Empress Vaylin. The Gravestone had emerged victorious over the Eternal Fleet, and the Alliance were then reforged into the Eternal Alliance, with the Eternal Fleet and the Gravestone being dissolved into its military, being used to help defend the galaxy instead of enslave or destroy it. However, this wouldn't last long, as the technology of Iokath would return to haunt the galaxy again, with Zildrog, the ultimate weapon of Iokath, being revived on the planet Nethema. Zildrog was directly connected with the Gravestone and used it to cripple the Eternal Alliance. The entire Eternal Fleet was stationed over the planet Odessen, and Zildrog, using his intrinsic connection to the Gravestone, empowered it and possessed the machine, and obliterated the entire Eternal Fleet, as the Gravestone was originally built to do. However, Zildrog himself was attacked and shut down before he could fully return to power, but in a last-ditch effort to damage the Alliance, Zildrog overloaded the internal systems of the Gravestone and caused it to self-destruct, leaving the remains of the machine hovering in orbit of Odessen alongside the remains of the Eternal Fleet. And with their destruction, the weapons of Iokath were no more. A poetic end for two grand pieces of technology that had fought each other for thousands of years.